Is the next topic? You're staring at it right here. This lovely tweet, not because I want to cover this tweet. I want to cover the idea in this tweet, because it's an idea that I have been exposed to over a long time in my life. Okay? Don't get vaccinated. No, we're not going to say it in that voice. We have to do this in a proper voice. Don't get vaccinated. It's not worth frying in hell for an eternity. Believe in Jesus and be saved. My voice gives me Christian power. Okay, so let's get over that real quick. We've had our fun with the tweet. We've had our fun with that. Now let's maybe talk about the idea here. What is this? Because this is actually not an uncommon belief where I come from. So let's take a moment, okay? What is he talking about? How would a vaccine make you burn in hell for eternity? For us to get into this, I need to get into some spooky territory. So Pumpkin Hill's going to play in the background. For all you Sonic Adventure 2 fans who wanted to deal with the scariest level in the whole game. I'm kidding. The scariest level is definitely Mad Space. I'm doubly kidding. It's not that. It's Aquatic Mine. Anyway, all that said, let's talk about vaccines making you burn in hell. Years ago, we had the swine flu pandemic. And young me, we're talking 16, 17-year-old me, was a huge proponent of the Left Behind series. I was an adamant tHe fan, insofar as I read his works. And I'd read through the Left Behind series multiple times. And there was a segment that happened specifically in the Left Behind series, the kids version. There was a kid named Lionel. I believe it was Lionel. I'm almost 100% certain it was Lionel. And in the book, he was forcefully given the Mark of the Beast. Now, how did this happen? Well, in the timeline of the Left Behind series, and trust me, this will make sense here, the first 3.5 years of the tribulation, the thing that's supposed to happen after the rapture, where everybody who's a Christian gets sent to heaven, and everybody who's not a Christian stays on Earth, and all the people who thought they were really Christians actually got no true Scotsman out of and taken to heaven, and they're stuck on the world. Now, one of the people stuck in this world in the kids series is Lionel, and he converts to Christ within the first few weeks of everything that goes on. He gets convinced by a pastor named Bruce, who did not get sent up because he was a fake Christian all along, but he decided to really convert to the real Word of God before convincing other members of the cast like Judd and Chloe and others to actually become Christians too, Lionel being one of these. At the halfway mark of the series, the Mark of the Beast starts coming out. When the Mark of the Beast happens, everyone who is in the world, everybody who's still alive, has to take the Mark of the Beast, which looks like a 666, basically, plastered on top of your head. Now, prior to this, true Christians were able to identify each other via the Mark of Christ. It looked like a cross on the head, and there were actually government agents who would infiltrate Christian areas because they would get descriptions of the mark, and then they would paint it on themselves so that it looked like they were a true blue believer to everyone else, and then, of course, they would get them all killed. So, Lionel, he ends up working for the Antichrist, Nicolae Carpathia, because his dad is one of these government agents. And, of course, with his dad working for Nicolae Carpathia, his dad receives the Mark of the Beast immediately, as soon as it gets rolled out, right? I wanted spooky music. Aquatic Mine, spooky music, perfect. So, Lionel's dad gets the Mark of the Beast, and then shortly after this, he tries to make Lionel get the mark as well. He pulls him through a government facility, and eventually he is forced to take the mark against his will. His dad, of course, trying to make him take it because he knows better and this is for his good. And without the mark of the beast, you can't buy food at the grocery store. So, this terrible thing happens to Lionel, and it introduces the idea that you can be forced to take the mark of the beast. Now, within the canon of Left Behind, and within the broad canon of the Book of Revelation and other books in the Bible, there's an idea that if you take the mark of the beast, you are damned to hell. Even if you accept Jesus Christ as your savior, it doesn't matter at that point. You've already taken the mark, you've already chosen your allegiance. You cannot convert, you have no way of doing so, and there's no way out. I believe there's like 2 people in the course of the entire book series that accept the mark of the beast and then eventually convert to help people, but they are basically looked at as pitiable souls, because even though they're helping the Christians, they will eventually burn in hell, and there's no way around it. And they basically accept their fate. It's really fucking twisted when you think about it, but it's the way the book frames things. And I guarantee you this will dial back to the vaccine thing. We'll get there. Just give me a minute. So this idea that you can be forced to take the mark of the beast comes in, and there's a whole drama in the Left Behind series at this point over whether or not a character like Lionel will be allowed to get into heaven. After all, they know the criteria for getting into hell is either being a non-believer or accepting the mark of the beast, whether you're a believer or not. But he's the only person who was forced to take the mark of the beast, who had the mark of Christ, and then got the mark of the beast on top of it. A bit of drama is made in the book about how he looks in the mirror and he sees them both overlaying on each other and he freaks out and it causes him an existential crisis. And then I believe his hand gets chopped off at one point, so he has to learn how to work a computer left-handed. I don't remember all the fuzzy details. But eventually it was shown that he was able to go to Christ and participate in the final bloody war against Satan's minions, including the people who had helped them, who just circumstantially took the mark. Anywho, that all said, when swine flu was happening, now that we've gotten off of Left Behind, this is the framework that a lot of people have for the way the mark of the beast works. It's seen as a tattoo, something given with a needle, maybe even a microchip. Now, the conspiracies happening around swine flu, aside from the fact that it couldn't kill you, blah, 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 there was one conspiracy that was a little prevalent, and it was from Alex Jones. Now, mind, when I was in high school, I was an Alex Jones fan. I got completely roped in to the hysteria. I watched the movie Zeitgeist. I turned into a giant fan of this guy. I also liked Glenn Beck, kind of, but around this time, the conversations in my friend group largely revolved around whether or not Glenn Beck was considered controlled opposition, or whether or not he was a government plant to try to sway us from the truth. We had arguments over whether or not Alex Jones or Glenn Beck was the government stooge. The end result is we were just having really dumb conversations, and I was a really dumb high schooler. But there was an idea that was planted in me during this time, and it was the idea that the swine flu vaccine potentially contained the mark of the beast. Now, how this actually juxtaposed with my ideas of the rapture, I want to ask my past self why I was that stupid to think that I would be getting the mark of the beast not after the 3.5-year mark that happened in my fiction series that I was reading at the time. But I had it in my head that the vaccine contained a microchip that would effectively be the mark of the beast. And I'd read this on various websites, the same websites that I was reading that gave me false positive information about stuff like Morgellons. Look into that if you will, if you want to. So with all this going on, I thought that the vaccine was going to give me the mark of the beast. My mom wanted me to get the vaccine because we had a family member that died from swine flu. And I protested vehemently. I said, no, no, no. It's the mark of the beast, Mom. I don't want it. I don't want to go to hell. I desperately did not want this. I eventually got it anyway, and nothing major came of it. It was just a vaccine dose, and I went on with my life and eventually deconverted, and now I look back at stuff like this and realize that I was very misinformed. I was getting my information from very poor sources that based their beliefs on Really, really poor methodology. But this was over a decade ago. And I bring this up because that me from the past would be Ryan Grown right here. This mentality right here, this don't get vaccinated, it's not worth frying in hell for an eternity, believe in Jesus and be saved. This whole thing right here, this was me a decade ago. And it was based off of information that I had got from a combination of poor sources like Alex Jones and the Left Behind series. They painted a picture of the world in which this made sense. But it doesn't make sense. The reality of this is that this is not how the world operates. We don't shove microchips into people with vaccines to track their locations via RFID. We can do that with cell phones. You've already got those. And we're certainly not trying to serve an antichrist at any point by getting fucking vaccines. Aside from the fact that the fictional world painted in the Left Behind series required everything to have already gone to shit, that's not the one. There we go. Death Chamber. More Knuckles music. But aside from the fact that the world that was envisioned to me, that I was the Christian victim in, required the rapture to have already happened, I was also being painted a world via sources like Zeitgeist and Alex Jones, where government agents were always spying on me 24/7, specifically me, and merely by knowing the information that they were handing me, I was painting a target on my back, and I would be the next martyr, gunned down by government spies and yada, yada, yada. And while it is true that because of things like the Patriot Act, there is probably some FBI agent staring at me masturbating through my phone at this very moment. Not that I'm masturbating at this very moment, but they're certainly looking at me and hoping that I will. I think they're very lonely, actually. FBI agent, if you're listening to me, your wife does love you, and you really need to go home to her. I am much less entertaining than time with your wife. So, while we do live in a world where government surveillance is at its peak and it is only getting worse, that is 100% true. We are not living in the world where vaccine microchips are converting people into agents of the Antichrist so that they can one day fight in a 1,000-year war with Christ in a nigh Ragnarok-style final battle, narrated by Tim LaHaye. But once upon a time, I believed that was reality. And there are people today who still believe that that's reality. So, what can I say? Come back to reality. Return to Monkey. Reject whatever the fuck you're being fed by people like Alex Jones, Glenn Beck, Prison Planet, Call for an Uprising, all these people. They don't have your best interests in heart. They want to sell you paranoia. Because paranoia is what allows them to sell you their YouTube channel for advertising dollars, their gold nuggets and multivitamins. You're being sold a product. Please note when you're being sold a product. You're being sold a product on my channel right now. Me, my information, my insight, my randomness, me as a character is a product for you. Understand when that's the case, please. As always, if you enjoy my content, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Again, I'm selling you the product of me. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Follow me over on Twitch at twitch.tv/necrosuris if you have not done so yet. I do a lot of late night streams covering all this kind of stuff. as always, everyone, please enjoy your life, don't be paranoid as shit, and insert end of video tagline here.